Hello, welcome to Anacrusis, where we provide you with your pickup into music theory. My name is Dylan, and today I'll be teaching AMEB Theory of Music Grade 2, recap of Grade 1 concepts. In this lesson, we will briefly outline and review all prerequisite Grade 1 theory of music content, including the fundamentals of pitch notation, basic rhythm and note values, the definition and examples of major scales, intervals, transposition, and rudimentary musical terminology. To follow along with this video, make sure you have a pencil, eraser, and music transcript paper or digital notation software. Let's begin with some basic pitch and notation concepts. Recall that written music is built upon the stave, 5 lines numbered 1 to 5, starting from the bottom. To help us identify the register, or how high or low a note is, we use the symbols known as clefs. The treble clef indicates that the note will be from C4, or middle C on the piano, and upwards. While the bass clef shows that the note will be from middle C and downwards. I'm sure you're familiar with bar lines, including the double and the final bar line, so we won't go into them too much here. Remember the various note values. The semibreve, which is 4 beats in total. This can be split into 2 minims, which are 2 beats in length each. Then, these can be split again into crotchets, which are 1 beat long. And finally, the quaver, which can be split again into half beats. Fantastic. Now, let's go through one more fundamental before we do some practice. Hopefully you already have learnt how to recognize and name notes from grade 1. In the treble clef, we can use the acronym Every Good Boy Deserves Fruit to remind us. Starting on the bottom line, each line going up is therefore E, G, B, D, and F. You will then be able to fill out the rest alphabetically, starting from middle C, which is one ledger line below the treble stave. Similarly, we can do this as well with the bass clef, with the acronym Good Birds Don't Fly Away, where again, starting on the bottom, we have G, B, D, F, and A. Excellent. Let's do some revision questions to see if you've got it. By yourself, try notating a minim A in the treble clef. On the transcript paper, draw the clef at the start of the bar, and at the end of the first bar, draw a double bar line, like so. Don't worry about including rests. Similarly, try writing a quaver A, but now in bass clef. Pause the video now to complete this by yourself. Excellent! You should have been able to get these notes. Check if you got these correct. And if you didn't, rewind the video to rewatch the concepts behind it. Great, let's move on. Now you should be familiar with the ideas of sharps, flats, and naturals. The best way to visualize this is on a piano. The black keys correspond to the sharps or flats, and the whites are the naturals. Take C, for example. The black note to its immediate right is just a little bit high in pitch, but not quite a D, so we'll call it a C sharp. However, if we think about it relative to D, this note is actually not higher, but actually a bit lower. But it's still not quite C yet, so therefore we call it a D flat. The same note has 2 different names? Cool. We call that an enharmonic note, but more on that later. Now, what if we want to write it on a stave? Well, remember that the sharp or flat is always on the left-hand side of the note and aligns with the center of the line itself, and it doesn't touch the note or the line. Oh, and do remember, when a sharp or flat appears in a bar for one note, that's called an accidental, and that note for the rest of the bar will also be sharp or flat. Now we have C sharp in the treble clef. Let's have B flat here in the bass. As always, the rest of the B's in the bar will also now be B flat. Now, what if we don't want a note to be flat or sharp though? Well, that's easy. We'll just put a natural on it. The natural returns it to the original note, or the white key note, as one might say. If we move this one up, that becomes B natural. Excellent. Let's speed this up a bit. Hopefully you will recall the three major scales that you will require to learn in grade 1, C, F, and G major. You will also remember that we identify major scales by using the distances between each note, called intervals. Let's go back to the piano first to define some intervals. The distance between a white key and a white key beside it is called a whole tone. However, the interval between a white key and a black key is called a semitone, half of a whole tone, such as from F to F sharp / G flat. The major scale can thus be identified from a sequence of intervals between each note. Going up, the intervals are TTS, TTTS, or 2 tones, 1 semitone, 3 tones, and 1 semitone. Here they are on the C major scale. Now, different keys and their scales can be signified by their key signatures, which tell us all about the notes that are to be sharp or flat for the entirety of the passage. For F, we must play all Bs as B flats, and for G, all Fs are therefore F sharps. Let's do some questions on scales. Let's try and notate a G major scale using crotchets with 1 octave ascending. Use accidentals and not the key signature, and start from G on the stave. Mark the semitones with the slurs. Additionally, try writing the F major scale in semibreves, 1 octave descending in the bass clef. Notate the key signature this time and mark the semitones with slurs too. Pause the video now to have a go for yourself. Excellent work. Here are the answers. Check over your own, and if they are correct, let's push on. Alright, remember that a scale degree is the number that corresponds to each note of the scale in ascending order. The note with scale degree 1 is given the special name of the tonic, and it is the namesake of the scale itself. For grade 1, we only need to know about the diatonic intervals, or intervals within the same key. Therefore, the intervals follow on from the scale degrees. C to D is the second, C to E is the third, C to F is a fourth, and you get the general idea. C to B is a seventh, and recall that a full eighth interval has a special name as well, called an octave. Don't forget that when two notes are of the same note, they are actually in unison. Now that we know intervals, let's talk about chords. Chords are any set of pitches that are sounded simultaneously, and for grade 1, we mostly need to know about triad chords. Triad chords are built of 3 distinct notes, the bottom or the root note, and the root notes a third and a fifth above it. We refer to a chord as a tonic triad if the root note is the tonic of the scale. Therefore, a C triad would therefore look like this. And a F triad would look like this. As the root is in the bottom, we say this chord is in the root position. You will learn about inversions in grade 2 later. Wonderful, let's do some more practice. In your notation, copy down this bar and its note. Now try and notate a sixth above it. Similarly, identify this interval. And finally, notate a G triad. Use the key signature here and use it in treble clef. Pause the video now to have a go for yourself. Great! Let's check your answers and let's shift gears into some duration work. Now, a sixth above this note, this is F. So we will go F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. Therefore, that is the sixth. Now, for this interval, let's have a go as well. Let's shift this note up to see how many steps there are in between. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Therefore, it is a fourth. Now, let's write a G major triad. Here, we're going to apply the key signature, which you know is 1 sharp. And let's write it out. So we have the tonic, which is G. We have the third above it, which is B. And we also have D. So there you go. That is a G major triad. All right. Knowing the time and tempo of a piece are essential in playing it properly. The way we can identify how many notes are in a bar and what type of notes they are is through the time signature at the start of the music. It is drawn to the right of the key signature, and the top tells us how many notes there are, while the bottom tells us what kind. Take your average 4/4 time signature. The 4 underneath tells us that the bar is divided in quarter notes, or crotchets. The 4 above tells us that the bar consists of 4 even crotchet beats. Therefore, every bar in the music will need to add up to 4 crotchets, which is also 2 minims, 1 semi-breve, or even this complex rhythm. 4/4 is a very common time signature, so it is also referred to as common time and can be notated also with a C. It is classified as simple quadruple time, meaning there are 4 simple or crotchet beats in the bar. Similarly, the time signature 3/4 is referred to as simple triple time, 3 simple beats per bar. Likewise, simple duple time is merely 2/4 or 2 crotchet beats in a bar. Now that we have the time signatures, let's discuss rests. Rests are equally as important to the notes themselves, and therefore different rests correspond to different lengths. A crotchet rest looks like this, and it is positioned in the center between lines 2 and 4 on the stave. As a crotchet, it will last for 1 crotchet beat. For a minim rest, it looks like this, and it rests on the 3rd line like so. Again, it will last for the length of a minim, or 2 crotchet beats. But how do we know where to place them? Music doesn't allow for different rests to be placed anywhere. They must follow the natural stresses of the bar. These are different for different time signatures. For example, in a 2/4 bar, the strong beat is always on the first note of the bar, followed by a weak beat. In 3/4, the stress is placed on the first note of the bar again, but the stresses follow the pattern strong, weak, weak, like a ballroom dance. In 4/4 time, the stresses are strong, weak, medium, weak. The third beat is also strong, but not as much as the first note. We must follow these patterns when assigning and notating rests. The beats of the bar must be clear when we notate, so we must ensure that each beat is represented well. As a rule, rests can follow from strong to weak, but cannot follow from weak to strong, nor can they follow weak to weak. The first example is correct because we can see that the first beat, the strong beat, is made clear, the second weak beat is also made clear, and the medium and the weak beat are tied together, so that falls under the rules. These 2 examples are incorrect. This is still in 4/4 time, but however, this rest has been tied over from the weak beat to the medium beat. This is incorrect. And also, for 3/4, we cannot tie weak to weak, so therefore, this minimum rest for beats 2 and 3 is also incorrect. The last thing you will need to learn in grade 1 duration is the anacrusis, also called the pickup or the upbeat. It consists of a fragmented bar at the start, usually around 1 crotchet beat in length. Because we have 1 crotchet beat at the start, we must also take away 1 crotchet beat from the last bar. Remember that when we number bars, we start from the first full bar, not from the anacrusis. Oh, and as a last thing, you will sometimes see a little dot to the right of a note head. This is called the dot of augmentation, and signifies that the note is 1.5 times its usual length. This dotted minim would therefore be not 2, but 3 beats in length. Now, amazing work up until now. Keep it up, we only have a little more to go. In your notation, copy this bar down and complete it with the correct rests while marking the natural stresses of the bar. In addition to that, determine what time signature this melody is in. Pause now to try for yourself. Okay, fantastic. Now, for question 8. Because it is in common time, we will need to add a crotchet beat and a minim. Or we can also have a crotchet and also 2 other crotchet beats. It depends up to you. So this would be a strong beat, and you'll have 1 weak beat here, 1 medium beat, and 1 weak beat again. Now we have a minim here, so it's already been tied from a strong beat to a weak beat. Therefore, we only need to add a minim or 2 more crotchet beats. Then finally, this is the last bar. So this is a rest we haven't talked about, but you will see here, this is a full bar rest, or this is a semi-brief rest, which extends for 4 beats. Now, let's see what time signature this is in. Well, we can see that each bar is composed of, in fact, 2 crotchet beats, because we have 1 crotchet here and 2 quavers, which adds up to 2 crotchet beats. So therefore, this would equal a 2/4 time signature. All right, terrific work. Let's move on to the last sections of Grade 1 theory. Transposition is a essential musical skill to have. It involves shifting the melody of a piece to another key, which is actually relatively simple to do. All you have to do is draw up this grid and then cross-reference and shift each note across. We'll take this bar in C major and shift it into F major. The D becomes a G. The A becomes a D, the F becomes B flat, and the B becomes E. Simple. For the last part, here's some revision on some common musical terminology. We have the tempo markings here. Adagio, which is slowly, andante, at a walking pace, moderato, at a moderate speed, allegro, lively and fast, and presto, which is very fast. Now, this would be seen on a score like so. It is above, usually, the first bar of the section, and it is in bold. Now, we're going to move to some tempo modifiers. So, we have accelerando, or accel, which means gradually faster, rallentando, or abbreviated as such, or ritardando, or retard, means gradually slower. These both mean gradually slower. Ritenuto, rit, means immediately slower or held back, and R tempo means return to former speed. Similarly, the modifiers would be above the stave here. As we can see, we have a lovely rit. Now we're going to move to some basic dynamics. So, I trust that you know that forte is loud, piano is soft, with a crescendo symbolizing gradually becoming louder, and a decrescendo meaning gradually becoming softer. This can also be called a diminuendo, or a dim. Now, legato means smoothly, well connected, which is usually shown by slurs across multiple notes. Staccato means detached or short and is marked by little dots over or under the note head. Ties are used to join notes of the same pitch, while slurs are for notes of different pitch. Remember that. This is a very important distinction. Well, that was pretty fast. Make sure you know all of these well, and rewind and pause the video if you need some extra revision time. Okay, let's close this off with a bang. Try to transpose this 4-bar melody to G major. Now, additionally, what does the tempo marking mean? What is the tempo modifier in bar 4? And also, what key is this originally in? Pause the video to try out for yourself. All right, let's take a look. Now, let's transpose this melody to G major. First, let's draw up our grid. So, we can see that from the key signature, we can tell that this is in F major. So, let's write out the notes of F major. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and E. Great. And let me try that again. Actually, we'll do it here. All right, let's try. So we have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and E. Now let's write the notes of G major. So we want to get to G major, so therefore the notes of G major are G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Fantastic. Okay, now that we have our grid, we can just cross-reference it and transpose it across. So let's transpose this into G major. I'm going to just change the key signature here and make it there. Now, it's all messed up, so don't worry. Let's go through it individually. So, F corresponds to G, so let's move it up to G. This A here corresponds to a B, so let's also move it up. This C corresponds to D. This B flat corresponds to C here. This A corresponds to a B. All right, so that's the first bar done. See, isn't it easy? Let's do the next bar. We'll do B flat, we'll move that up to a C. G becomes an A, and an A becomes a B. Now this is a D, so that we move that one up into an E. This is a E, so we'll actually bring that up to a F sharp. And then this is a F, so we'll bring that up to a G. This is a C, so we'll bring that to D, and this A will become B. Now let's try it for the last bar. So we have B flat, we'll move that up to a C, the G becomes an A, and the F becomes a G. Fantastic! If you manage to get this, then you have transposed this melody correctly. Now, we've already established that it was originally in F major. Now, what does the tempo marking mean? Allegro. Now, who remembers? Let's go back to the terms, and allegro means lively and fast. So if you managed to get that without rewinding the video, props to you. Now, what does the tempo modifier in bar 4 mean? Now, where is the tempo modifier? It is here. So, what does RAL mean? RAL stands for rallentando. Rallentando means gradually slower. So, if you managed to get all that, congratulations! You have officially aced grade 1 theory. Now, let us finally well, that ends off my lesson. Thank you very much for watching Anacrusis Music Theory. If you have any questions, join our Discord server for live assistance from your teachers. Check out our website for more do-it-yourself practice questions and subscribe for more content like this. As always, I've been Dylan, and I'll catch you in the next one.